Test 1, 2. All right, looks like we got some juice. Good evening, everyone. One of the roll calls we want to do is to try to have everybody from the back to please press your way forward. We want to have a nice little community of togetherness. Yeah, I know Sister Rose. She looking at me like, why have to get up? Come on, sweetheart. You always like to pick on you anyway. Come on, so everybody, please be obedient. Please be obedient. Let's move quickly, because we got a lot of material to cover this evening. It's going to be very informative. It's going to be real. If y'all don't like real, this is not the place that you need to be, because we're going to be discussing some things that's going to be so real, it's going to probably make the hair stand on your neck, but it's going to be good. Trust me, it's going to be good. Did I mention, trust me, it's going to be good? All right. Let's have a word of prayer, and then I will wait for y'all to come, young people especially. I need y'all to press this way, not the back. Yes, thank you. I'm still seeing some disobedient people in the back, and y'all still. See, that's why Moses had to strike that rod. It's folk like y'all. You know what I'm saying? Mercy. All right. We're going to have a word of prayer, then we're going to have a quick introduction, and then we're going to get right into the meat of the program. Bow your heads, close your eyes. Father in heaven, Lord, we are grateful that you brought us for such a time as this, dear God. Lord, we are desiring a word from you. Father, thank you, God, for blessing my dear brother Garhett Adams to be able to come through the test with the testimony, dear God. And Lord, as he speaks the things of his heart that we've placed in his heart, I pray that, Lord, we might listen attentively. I pray that, Lord, that our consciousness may be troubled, dear God, and we might wrestle with ourselves with you to say, what should I do to inherit eternal life, dear God, and to make good decisions. Bless our young people that are paying attention. I pray that, Lord, that spirit of wanting to play games or their video game will be rebuked in the name of Jesus, dear God. I know that they might listen attentively to the words that we say. Lord, I pray that there might be some lives that might be changed as a result of this discourse. I pray in the name of Father. Amen. Again, I want to thank you all for coming out. This is a joint effort between AY and the Target Ministries to bring about this dear brother, Garhett Adams. I don't know if a lot of you may know him, and I'll let him do most of his introduction, but I knew Garhett probably when he was a little bit about this high, running around the Petersburg Shalom Church. You know, he's been missing in action for a few years, and I wondered what the world he was up to, but never really gave it any thought until probably a few months ago when I seen this dude, didn't even recognize him. And he started sharing his testimony, and I'm telling you, I was glued to my seat, and my body was just shaking because I'm like, how in the world are you going to grow up in this and have this caliber of parents and all the guidance and everything, and then you still stray? And the biggest thing that came to my mind is, woe is me and my kids. Like, man, I'm scared, you know. But it's not for us to be scared, but for us to seek God even the more for direction and guidance. A lot of times we take things for granted, especially our young people. So I pray that God is going to give us a word this evening. Brother Garhett is coming, and again, he's coming real. There might be some things might trouble your delicacies, your delicate minds. But I'd rather it to be troubled and for us to then be informed so we can make better decisions rather than to sugarcoat stuff. I don't believe in sugarcoat stuff. The enemy is real, and he's out to destroy our young people. Just this couple of days, I wrestled with my daughters with some stuff on Instagram and Messenger and so forth. I'm like, what in the world? I got to be more vigilant with that as a parent. You know, so I'm praying that we as parents and spiritual guardians that we will take these things seriously, that we would really look to build this village so we can grow our young people so that might be future leaders of today. I thank all our leaders out there that works with the young people. I see Brother Henry, I see Sister Rollins, I see Brother Kevin, and there's many others that might forget their names, but I thank you all for coming out. And right before we get through, there's going to be some books that this brother Garhett has written. I'm talking about a really strong book that's really going to help us in this walk with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So please, we're asking that afterwards, after the program, we're hoping to end around close to sunset, that we will patronize the brother, and also we have some scholarships for those individuals. A few individuals that demonstrated a financial need for tuition. Can't help everybody, unfortunately. It is what it is, but we've been fortunate enough to be able to get a couple scholarships through our target ministries to help some of our young people. So, without further ado, can I just get a little bit more volume on this mic, on the blue? And then once Garhett is finished, we're going to do a question and answer period, okay? So, without further ado, Brother Garhett.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. If you haven't heard before, my name is Garhett Adams, inmate number 431531, state ID number 3869982, cell block CB614. That is a number I will never forget, because they drilled it in my mind every day. See, where I went, you are not identified by a name. They don't come knock on your cell door and ask you what your name is. They knock on the door and say, what's your number? You respond with your number. Inmate number 431531. This story is not to make you feel good, because it doesn't. The story is not to make me look good, because it doesn't. The story is not easy to tell. As a matter of fact, it gets harder every time I tell it. This story is completely 100% true. And I need especially my young people to listen, because I once sat where you are now sitting and told myself, this will never happen to me. I sat in those pews as a young man and said, I will never go here, I will never do this, and I will never go to prison. But what I didn't understand and what I didn't realize is that once I stepped foot out of this sheltered Adventist environment that I had grown up in, real world hits with real world decisions. And they ain't fun ones. See, we grow up in this sheltered environment, this sheltered Adventist environment, and no, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you step foot out of here, somebody else playing on the other team outside these doors. There's a reason they call the devil the adversary. There's somebody waiting outside these doors to present you with a whole nother lifestyle, waiting to present you with a whole nother choice. And we often grow up in this sheltered environment and think, that will never happen to me. Oh no, I'll never be there. Until you find yourself in a place that you said you'd never be in, doing things that you said you'd never do. I grew up in Petersburg, Virginia, for 17 years of my life. Loved it, still miss it. As he said, have some of the greatest parents I could ever ask for. My father is a Seventh-day Adventist minister. He is former pastor of Shiloh Seventh-day Adventist Church down in Petersburg, Virginia. My mother, Dr. Darla Adams. My grandfather used to be president of Allegheny East, Elder Meade Van Putnam. So you can see the legacy and the lineage that I come from, deeply rooted in this church, deeply rooted in the Adventist faith. So I didn't have the typical excuses that people use. Oh, well, My daddy wasn't there. No, I couldn't use that. Father's been in my life my entire life. Parents have been married over 30, 35 years, I believe. Couldn't use that excuse. Couldn't use the excuse, well, I'm a product of my environment. No, I couldn't use that excuse. Grew up in a great environment. Grew up in a great neighborhood. Didn't have to worry about hearing gunshots at night and things of that nature. No, so I couldn't use that excuse. Couldn't use the typical excuses that we as young people use for why we do what we do. I had none of those. I grew up a sheltered little Adventist boy. Never been to public school a day in my life. Parents believed and still believe firmly that Christian education pays and that it doesn't cost. Some may disagree. I've seen the tuition rates. But they had me in Christian school my entire life. A graduate of Pine Forge Academy, class of 2010. Graduated with highest honors, salutatorian of my class, vice president of my class, member of the Pine Forge Academy chapter of the National Honor Society, with a full ride to college. Full ride to school, school paid for. And not just a state college, private college. And I say that because you know the tuition rates of private college. Paid for on academic scholarship. And I always told myself certain things I will never do, certain things will never happen to me. But at the beginning of this, you heard me state my prison number. And so it's probably in your mind, well, how does one go from where I was to where I ended up? I'm glad you asked. See, there was a deep problem that I had that Mama couldn't solve and Daddy couldn't solve. Was a very unpopular individual. Used to get picked on a lot. Used to get made fun of a lot. And it affected my self-esteem. And so I always had this desire to want to be the cool kid, want to be the popular kid, want to be the one that everybody liked. And would often make a complete fool of myself trying to get everybody else to like me. And you may think, oh, that's not that serious. But there's a lot of things that people have done in this life trying to get other people to like them. And it didn't turn out so well. And so you may not think that it can grow into something as drastic as where I ended up, but let me tell you, yes it can. Yes it can. There's a Christian hip-hop artist named Lecrae. And in his book, he quoted a phrase that said, when you live for people's acceptance, you will die by their rejection. When you live for people's acceptance, you will die by their rejection. And I lived for people's acceptance. Yes, my mother tried to validate me. Yes, my father tried to validate me. But in my mind, that's just what they're supposed to do. They're my mother. They're my father. Yes, they're supposed to make me feel like I'm this and I'm that. But when I go elsewhere and hear something different, it started to affect me. It started to affect me. Wanting to be liked. And you know, you always turn on the movies and you see that there's always this one popular guy in school that everybody likes. 9 times out of 10 is the dumb jock. That everybody tends to like, most popular guy in school type situation, all girls after him, that type of situation. And I always envied that position. I wanted to be the one that everybody liked. Wanted to be the one that was irresistible to every female on God's green earth. Just what I wanted. And that's what I strove to be. And while I was doing well academically, socially, I suffered. And my senior year at Pine Forge Academy was where I really started to act out, if you will. In my quest to be with the popular kids, and in my quest to be liked, I joined up with a few individuals at school. Now mind you, again, sheltered Adventist kid. Never had went drinking, never had smoked, never did anything. And so individuals, my senior year of high school, had decided that we were going to go to, the school was taking us on a Walmart run. You know, they would take us out to go get our toiletries and get things, whatever we needed. And one of my friends said, hey man, you want to roll with us? So what y'all about to go do? He said, man, we're about to go smoke real quick. Never smoked a day in my life. Curiosity killed the cat. So well, I'm going to go this one time. And let me pause right there, because that's a serious enemy that the devil loves to use. Just this one time. I'm going to try it just this one time. I'm going to test it out just this one time. But anybody who has ever did that just that one time knows that just one time never happens, and just one time never comes. The other one that is used is, well, I'm going to do it just one more time. And you tell yourself, well, I'm going to do this just one more time. And then after that you say, well, I'm going to do it just one more time. And then after that you say, well, I'm going to do it just one more time. And just one more time never comes. And by the time you're done doing it just that one more time, you've done it 30 times. And so I told myself, I'm going to try it just this one time. What they had was a Black and Mild. If you don't know what that is, it's a cigar. And so we went out, smoked a cigar. So, okay, well, that was about one time. That's what it's all about. All right, you know, whatever. Not going to do that anymore. The next time they invited me to go out to smoke, wasn't a Black and Mild this time. Wasn't a cigarette this time. This time, the brother had some weed this time. You know, I'd always listen to the music. Always heard them talk about, you know, smoking the weed. So I said, you know, I always wondered what it was like. Always wondered what it was like to be high. So I told myself, I'm going to try it just this one time. And so we snuck out of the dorm. Yes, just because we go to Christian institutions doesn't necessarily mean we're up there doing Christian things. That's just the short and sweet truth of it. So we snuck out of the dorm, went out, and let me put a side note in there. That's not to say that that's anything on the institution, but the people that are going there. So don't think just because, you know, certain things were happening at the institution, listen, they can't stop everything from going on. People that are hell-bent determined to do wrong, they're going to find a way to do wrong. So don't think, well, I ain't sending my kid to know none of them are schools or anything like that because, you know, this type of stuff is going on. Listen, they were going to do that at home anyway. And so, you know, one way or the other, don't blame the school for it. So let me put that on the side note. Firm supporter of Pine Forge Academy. Firm supporter of Christian education. But we were hell-bent and determined to do wrong. That was on us, not the school. And so we snuck out of the dorm that night. And I said, I'm going to do it just this one time. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. So they had to kind of show me how to smoke. We did it. Got high. Biggest problem. And I'm going to tell you what the biggest problem is. The biggest problem was I liked it. That was the biggest problem. See, it's easy to say no to something when you don't like it. comes down to saying no to something that you actually enjoy, oh, see, now we have a problem. My problem was I enjoyed it. And so telling myself just this one time, man, I was like a kid on Christmas. I said, so this is what they've been talking about this whole time? Cool. I'm in there. So every single time, from then on out, when they went out to smoke, guess who was right alongside me? And I use those ignorant little phrases that we as young people use to justify our actions. It's not really hurting anybody. Little weed never did nothing to nobody. Little weed doesn't hurt anybody. Then my favorite one when it comes to weed, oh, it comes from the earth, it's natural. It's natural, it comes from the earth, so it can't be that bad. It's not the hard stuff. So if it's minor stuff, let's play along for right now and say it's minor stuff. 9 times out of 10, most of the people doing the hard stuff didn't start off doing hard stuff. They started off with quote-unquote minor stuff and graduated to the hard stuff because sooner or later the minor stuff ain't good enough. It isn't good enough. And you'll find out later on when I tell you what I ended up upgrading to. But for right now, I was on the quote-unquote minor stuff. At least I thought. So I was with them every single time they went out to go get high. Graduated, still graduated, top of my class. Problem number 2. Worst thing you can ever give somebody who's starting to wild out is more freedom. So Pod Forge had a bunch of rules. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that. You know, you have these restrictions, gotta be here at this time, you know, this, that, and the third. Now, it's college time. College time, I can come and go as I please. Nobody's checking where I am. Don't have to be here at a certain time. Don't have to be there at a certain time. I can go here. Nobody's wondering where I am. I can pretty much do what I want to do. And that was the worst thing that happened to me at that period of time. Is I got more freedom. I got more freedom. Now, I'm not saying go home and put a lock and key on the door and lock your kids in their room. But I got more freedom and I took advantage of it. And my behaviors at home started to change. They started to change, you know. My parents could tell I was up to something. But honestly, no parent really wants to believe that their kid is really up to no good. Especially into drugs and things like that. So I called myself doing a good job of hiding it. You know, spray the cologne and stuff before you go in the house, put the Visine in your eyes, that type of situation. Mouthwash, you know. Call myself trying to mask it up before I go home. And so I'm in college on a full ride, mind you. Washington Adventist University. Once CUC, Columbia Union College. On a full ride, but I find myself skipping class, not even going to class, going elsewhere to go get high with friends. And add to the mix, now we start throwing alcohol in the mix. Terrible combination. Getting high and getting drunk at the same time is a very terrible combination. And then if we want to throw another monkey wrench in there, I had my license too. So many a time I would attempt to drive home under the influence of alcohol and high. So it is a wonder, one, I I didn't kill anybody. And two, I didn't kill myself. Because there is many a night I can tell you I don't remember how I got home, but for the grace of God. There had to have been an angel driving that car because I passed out in the middle of the street. When I come to, I'm in my driveway, still buckled up in the seatbelt, car parked in the driveway. The next morning, and don't remember how I got there. Many a night, I would stop at a stoplight high and drunk and tell myself I'm gonna just close my eyes for a brief second and go right out. Wake up 30 minutes later, my car is drifting through the intersection. And I'd come to and get the car out of the intersection, but that happened on more than one occasion. Do you think I learned my lesson? No. Just kept on, and kept on, and kept on. Passed out, falling out, throwing my braids up. You know, now that I think about it, I'm trying to remember what part of that I actually thought was fun. Sitting throwing your braids up half the night. I don't remember which part of that I actually believed to be fun at the time. I don't know how many people in here like throwing up, but you know. And so, my behaviors worsened. They worsened. And they worsened. To the point where I became disrespectful at home. You know, I started, what's the phrase, smelling myself a little too much. I started to get disrespectful at home, disobedient. My parents would tell me be home at a certain time. I'd cut the phone off and go out and come home the next morning. Things of that nature. And I remember my second year of college, my mother, who is a Oakwood University alumni, had always wanted me to have the Oakwood experience. She said, listen, I just want you to have the Oakwood experience. Go for, just go for a year. Or matter of fact, she said, just go for a semester. So I got so tired of her asking and bugging me about it, I said, okay, Mom, I'm gonna go for a semester and see what the Oakwood experience is about. And about that time, I had told myself, you know what, I'm gonna go up here and I'm gonna, try to do the right thing. I'm not gonna continue with the smoking and the drinking and things like that. I'm gonna focus on my studies, focus on my grades, and do what I need to do up here. So as I'm unpacking, my parents dropped me off, I'm unpacking my clothes, unpacking my stuff. Met one of my roommates. He comes in and says, introduces himself. First question out his mouth. Hey man, you smoke? I said, nah, I don't smoke. And I went to keep unpacking my clothes. Third mistake. Turned around and asked, why? He was like, no reason, just about to go out with some friends, we're about to blaze up, I said, well, hold on, man, let me go ahead and come with y'all just one more time. He said, I thought you said you didn't smoke. I said, I changed my mind, man, come on. Back on the wagon. So we went out there, and the cycle started all over again. All over again. And I asked the Lord to forgive me on multiple occasions, but there were many a day I went to class high, went to work high, went to church high, went to chapel services high, and I asked the Lord many a day to forgive me for defiling his house in such a way. But I didn't. I didn't. Would skip class, go get high, go get drunk with some friends. Times when I was supposed to be in chapel, I'm skipping. Let me ask y'all a question. How many of y'all know that liquor and weed ain't free? Anybody that's handing it away free must not be very good at whatever they're doing. I don't know anybody giving away free drugs on the street. So it isn't free. And you know, my parents did all right, but we ain't got an unlimited supply of money around here. And they're not stupid either. So, you know, they would give me a little bit of money to take care of what I need to take care of, you know, get toiletries, get my school supplies, stuff of that nature. You know, so they would, let's say they give me $100 for the month or so to, you know, get my school supplies. It's enough for a college student to go and get some food and do whatever else I need to do. And I'd run through that in, what, a day and a half? And then I'm calling 2 days later, hey, can y'all send me some more money? Instant red flag, because, you know, the first question that comes to mind, well, what did you do with that bit of money we just gave you 2 days ago? Now, I can't necessarily say, well, I blew it on liquor and marijuana. So I'm making up all type of excuses. Look, had to put gas in the car, had to go get books, had to go get through this, had to, you know. So, you know, my money's kind of gone. They were like, well, you know, tough. Deal with it. You got to learn how to budget, bro. So, do you really think that that was about to stop me from continuing in my habit? Not at all. So now I just got to come up with a new way of funding my outings. One morning, I was waiting. I was in bed sleep. I was skipping chapel. I remember I was skipping chapel and I was in bed sleep. I got a call from one of my quote-unquote friends. And he told me, he said, look, I'm in such and such a building. Need you to meet me over here right now. I was like, bro, can we do this later? I'm in bed, like, seriously, can we do this like some other time? He was like, bro, you need to come over here right now. Like, all right, man, I'll be there. Get out my bed, throw something on, meet him at a certain building. And when I got there, I saw him, I said, man, what was so important that you had to get me out my bed for? He was standing against the wall and he just pointed into one of the classrooms. And I looked in there, and every single student that had gone to chapel left all of their book bags, left all of their purses, left everything, laptops, the whole nine, left them in the classroom because they knew they were coming back from chapel and they were going back to class. So they figured everything would be safe. So that's what little bright idea me and my friend did. How many of y'all know how much those college textbooks cost? They're not cheap. I got a textbook right now that I have to pay for that is about to cost me $300. Textbooks are not cheap. And there was a bookstore probably 2 miles off campus that would let you take your books and you could sell them back to the store and they would give you, money for it to help you purchase, next semester's books. It was a way for students to, save some money. They would get some money back for their old books and, buy next semester's books. Light bulb. Nice little scam we come up with. Why don't we take their textbooks, go down to the store down the way, sell them at the store, and bang, we got us a nice little hustle going on here. And see, I know the manager had to know what we were doing at the store. Because there's no way he did. Because there's no reason why one individual comes in there with 6 biology textbooks, 7 chemistry textbooks, 4 social work textbooks, whatever you name it, of the same book. None of them got our name in it. And didn't bother asking for a piece of ID, didn't ask for any type of verification, nothing. Said, what's your name? John Smith. Cool. Here's your money. Not only did we come in there one day with 6 biology textbooks, we'd come the next day with 6 more. So we had to know what we were doing, but didn't really care. And everyday little hustle of how we get money. We grab textbooks, we grab laptops, we're grabbing everything that was of value. Then on our way into a building one time to go in to continue our thievery, my man happened to walk by a car and said, "Hey G," it's like, "What's up?" He said, "You know the door open." I said, "What's in it?" He said, "Man, there's a book bag right here and I see a biology textbook." I said, "Stop talking and grab that thing and let's go." So we find out, because this is a Christian campus, everyone makes the assumption that we can leave our cars open and nothing's gonna happen. Whatever. That was all she wrote for us. So not only are we going in classrooms, we're going in every car we can find. You know, we thought we were being smart about it because we organized little rules for our theft. Rule number 1, never mess with a new car. New cars got alarms. Rule number 2, always work in a crowded parking lot. It's easier to see when there's 1 or 2 cars sitting in the parking lot. So make sure the parking lot's crowded. 3, and this may sound weird, but we never steal at night. Because it just looks suspect you rummaging around a parking lot at nighttime. If you're walking around in the middle of the day acting like nothing's happening, people are going to assume that, nothing's happening. So we thought we were being slick. We thought we were being smart with what we were doing. And this continued, and continued on a daily basis. Continued so much to the point that we even started doing it on other campuses, at other schools. Got to the point where we said, forget the schools, we started doing it in stores. We'd go in, have the money to buy for something, I mean stupid stuff, and we just take it because we could. Stupid stuff, clothes, be like, "Yo, you want a soda?" "Yeah, good." Stupid stuff, just because we could. And we thought we were slick. And on one occasion, I tried my little stunt at the Oakwood bookstore, thinking I was invincible and couldn't get caught. Got busted at the Oakwood bookstore by the manager. And the manager cut me a break because he not only knew my mother, but he knew my grandfather. And in a way, I tell you, it did me a disservice. It did me a disservice because this was the type of stuff that I was used to. People letting me slide with murder because they knew my mother, they knew my father, and they knew my grandfather. And it did me a disservice. Why? Because it put into my mind that yes, I can do X, Y, and Z and get away with it because they know my people and they're going to let me slide. See, but that's all good and dandy until you get yourself in a situation that mama and daddy can't get you out of. Where you get yourself in a situation that the person who's in charge don't know your mother, don't know your father, don't know your grandfather, and much less doesn't care. And so do you think that I stopped doing what I was doing simply because I got caught on one occasion? Absolutely not. We kept going and we kept going all the more until my partner in crime got caught. And he had gotten caught once before, so they were actually putting him out of school. And so before he got put out, the night before he got put out, I said, "Hey man, you want to make one last run? You make one last run, one last go at it before you got to leave school." Remember when I told you about that one last time stuff? You know, there's evidence about it all in the movies. If you ever watch movies, all the, like the gangster movies, okay, what's American Gangster? There every time somebody says, I'm going to do something, this one last time, I'm going to do this last run, is always the one they get jammed up on. Every time you say this is the last time I'm going to do something, it's always the one somebody gets jammed up on. American Gangster, he said, I'm going to get this last shipment in, and then I'm good. That's the one he got jammed up on. Happens all the time, but we said, we're going to do this last one before my man leaves. That night broke every last rule, quote unquote, that we had for our theft. New Mercedes, only car in the parking lot, nighttime. Soon as we hit the door handle, alarm goes off on the car. We get into the car and boom. And had I been thinking, I would have taken my behind off campus. My crazy behind says I got to get something out my dorm room real quick. Drives to the dorm, run inside real quick, grab what I had to grab, and as soon as I come out, nothing but squad cars around my car. Somebody had already seen us before we even touched the car. See, Oakwood had started passing out flyers around campus saying there's been a string of thefts around campus. Lock your cars, lock your dorm rooms, keep your valuables. That's how bad it got that they had to start passing out flyers talking about keep your valuables to yourself or, on your person, lest they come up missing. So somebody had already seen us and called before we even touched the car. We're surrounded, they cuff us, they take us in. It was a really terrible phone call I had to make home. I had only been in Oakwood for 6 weeks. All of this, 6 weeks, I went up there. And again, because they knew my mother, they knew my grandfather, they said, we're not going to expel you. They said, but what we're going to do is have you withdraw from the university so that way it doesn't go on your record as an expulsion. They said, you got 24 hours to get off the campus. Again, showing me grace and mercy because they knew my family. Sheltered, no evidence for it. Used to getting off because people know my people. Had to call home and tell my parents, hey, can you come get me? Because I'm being put out of school. Now, how do you think my parents reacted to that? Here's their son that graduated top of his class from Pine Forge Academy with highest honors, with a full ride to college, is now being put out of school for theft. And I'll never forget what my mother said to me. She almost quoted the verse verbatim that Nathan the prophet went and said to David after he killed Uriah and slept with Bathsheba. Said, the Lord has given, except she replaced that and said, your father and I have given you everything you could have wanted. And if that had been too little, you had but to ask. You had but to ask. He said, we've given you 100% of what you needed and 90% of what you wanted. And the worst part about this whole situation is my mother nor my father's tears, they didn't sway me not one bit. I had become so callous at that point that the whole ride home, my mother is bawling her eyes out because her son is being put out of school. And I'm literally turning my radio up, trying to drown it out. And at one point, I turned it down and said, yo, do I really have to hear this the whole ride home? Do I really have to hear you crying and sobbing the whole way home? It's not going to get me back into school. Do we really have to deal with this the whole ride home? It's a 12-hour ride back home. That's how callous I had gotten, that her tears didn't bother me not one little bit. I can hear some of the mothers like, boy, I ought to put your head into the window. I can hear some of the mothers over there saying. See, but at that point, now that kicked in later. At that point, my mother was in a state of hurt. See, but something clicked in the brain a little later on, and she got out that hurt mode real quick, and anger took over. See, y'all know about that the hurt part had to get out first. She had to get the tears out the way. But when the tears got out the way, the wrath of mama kicked in. And so when I got to the house, she said, let me tell you something. Don't think that you're going to get kicked out of school and come and sit on my couch. She said, youngin', you got 1 week to find employment. She said, so help me, you will come home and your stuff will be on the sidewalk. She said, it will break my heart to do it. She said, but I will put your behind out. And then she looked me dead in my eyes and said, try me. And see, anybody that knows my mother knows mama, knows mama don't bluff. Mama tell you you're going to get something, oh, trust and believe you're going to get it. When I was little, we could be at the store and I'd be acting, cutting the food. And she hit me with the, wait till we get home. So you know all of a sudden you straighten up real quick, act like you got some sense. So we go to the store, she's buying me school clothes, we're buying this, buying ice cream, we having a good fun time, laughing, giggling, everything. So I'm thinking everything's good. When we get home, come on, Sean. I'm like, hold up, man, we just went out for ice cream, we done bought clothes. She's like, I never say anything that I don't mean. Never has bluffed a day in her life, so I wasn't about to try her on this one. And so the first thing out my mouth, God, please help me get a job. Real funny how now you're asking God for some help when about 3 days ago, God wasn't nowhere on the brain. God was nowhere to be found when I was out there stealing. Now all of a sudden, with my back up against the wall, it's, oh God, I need some help. Many of us have been in that predicament. God was nowhere in the picture until you get in some trouble. Then it's, oh God, help me. God, I'll never do it again. God, I need this. God, I need that. Well, where was God about 3 weeks ago when you were out doing what you were doing? We like to treat God like he's some genie in a bottle, that we pull you out when we need you. Like God is your get out of jail free card. And then wonder why some prayers go unanswered. Because you're not really praying for help because you want change. You're praying to get out the consequence. But by God's grace, guess what I did? I got a job. Told myself I'm going to leave all that stuff alone. I ain't going to go stealing. I'm going to leave all the drugs alone. I'm going to leave the liquor alone. I'm going to leave all that stuff alone. Till I happened to meet up with a coworker that sold weed. Every time you try to switch teams on the devil, trust and believe he's going to throw somebody at you to net you back in. Every single time you tell yourself, I'm quitting something, I guarantee it. I wholeheartedly, 100% guarantee it won't be 24 hours before somebody is throwing in your face what you said you were going to quit. I've seen it happen time and time again. I'm quitting cigarettes. Somebody gonna throw a cigarette in your face. I'm quitting drugs. Hey man, look, you want this? It's on the house. I'm quitting sleeping around. Somebody dressed in God knows what is gonna come through and everything in God's known world in your face. And you ain't gonna have to ask about it. I'm trying to tell you, every time you try to switch teams on the devil, oh no you don't. I got something for you. Devil hates it when people switch sides. So I meet up with this coworker, I'm back on the horse again. Lasted at this job probably a month before I got fired for coming to work high. Thought I was doing a good job. covering it up. Smelled like weed coming in the office. They told me, yeah, I'm making up some crazy excuse. Listen, my brother borrowed the car. He was smoking in the car. Just kind of got on my clothes. You know, stuff that just didn't make any sense. But I was already high when I'm trying to explain the story. You ever heard a high person trying to make sense? A high person trying to make sense, it's like, it's terrible. It's terrible. It makes no sense whatsoever. And then they trying not to slur, they trying not to sound high, they trying not to sound drunk. And the more they try not to sound like what they are sounding like, is the worse it is. So the more I'm trying to explain my way out of this situation, the worse I'm sounding. So I ended up leaving that job. So I get my man to hook me up with another job that doesn't necessarily care about you coming to work high, they just want the job done. Bingo, great job for me. Didn't care, didn't do your analysis, nothing. They just say, look, as long as the job get done, we ain't asking no questions, here's your paycheck, go home. Cool. So until this point, I was pretty much going through different people to, get my drugs, and I didn't know where to get it from. Again, never really did much in my life, so didn't really know where to get this stuff from until my man introduced me to his dealer. Now I got a direct connect. Great. But not so great because, mind I'm working 10-hour shifts. But I'm spending my paycheck faster than I can make it. I'm spending my paycheck faster than I can make it, and so I'm pulling these 10-hour shifts, going out, buying about an ounce. I kept about an ounce of weed in the car. At this time, I'm starting to mess with pills. We paying for liquor. We having big parties, man. We're going out with the, got the girls in the hotel room on the weekends and stuff like that. We just think we living it up. And you would have thought I had learned my lesson. I'm gonna backtrack for a second. There is one part I forgot. Back when I was still at Oakwood and I was engaging in this crazy behavior, we had gone to a party. I was already drunk out my mind and already high, but that's all we had done literally the entire day, and it was Sabbath. It was on the Sabbath day where I had skipped church, gone with some friends. He had got a hotel room for the weekend. He sold weed, so he was in there bagging up the whole weekend. We were in there doing nothing but drinking and getting high the entire day. That night he tells us, hey listen, my man has a birthday party down the way, so we're gonna go to the party. Rules of the party are bring a female or bring a bottle. Okay. So we go, we're already drunk and high, mind you. Anybody that knows me knows I don't like anyone driving my car. I just don't like people driving my car. I just don't. But I was so hammered, I gave him the keys and man, you're gonna have to drive. I can't even see straight at this point. He drives us to the party. I look at him and say, listen man, do not leave me. I can barely remember my last name at this point. Do not leave me, bro. I cannot drive. I got you, man, I got you. So we're in the party, drinking some more, getting high some more. Police come in, noise violation, break up the whole party. So as I'm rushing out to the car, I got my keys and I'm looking for my man. Guess what? I can't find him. He's left. I had my other man with me. I said, listen man, you're gonna have to drive. He's like, bro, I can't drive still. We were a mile from the campus. I said, okay man, look, we gonna attempt to get this 1 mile down the road and get to the school. I am completely trashed at that point. We back out, probably didn't make it 100 feet down the road, and I passed out. When I came to, I remember my nose was itching and I tried to scratch my nose, but I couldn't seem to get my hand to my nose, and I was pulling my hands, but I couldn't pull them from out behind my back. And I was pulling them, and looked and realized we were in the back seat of somebody's vehicle. Happened to be a squad car. I just looked over at my man and he's sitting there just shaking his head at me. And I passed back out. When I came to again, I woke up in my bed. So I'm kind of mixed up. So I called him and said, bro, what happened? Last thing I remember is we were in cuffs. How did I get in my bed? He said, bro, I don't know what type of magic you working. He said, but the officer let us go. He said, listen, you were so hammered. He said, you were volunteering information. The man didn't even ask you. He was like, no sooner he pulled y'all over, you sitting there, yes, officer, I'm drunk. Yes, officer, I'm underage. We go to college right there. I was just at a party. He said, you ain't telling this man stuff, he ain't even asked you. He said, why he let us go, I don't understand. But then I learned my lesson there. And so I'm back at home, continuing in the same behavior. At this new job, spending my paycheck in 2 days. Probably less, depending on what I'm going to do. Spending my paycheck in about 2 days. So here I am sitting at the house. I have no drugs, I have no liquor, I have no money, I have no gas in the car because I've spent all my money on frivolous activities. Without getting a little too graphic, I was spending money on, some entrepreneurs who walk back and forth on the street. Figure that out if you can. Sidewalk rangers, that's a very good one. There you go. That's a clean way of saying it. So I'm doing all this crazy stuff out here, coming home, smashed drunk. Of course, my mother is going off, going nuts. My father's going nuts. But I have a hangover out of this world, coming in the house the next morning after not telling them where I was the whole night, stumbling in the door. My mother and my father, boy, they be coming in this house drunk, this, that, and the third. I'm just walking up the stairs. All right, Mom. All right, Mom. All right, Dad. All right, guys. Fall in the bed, put the covers on my head. All right, y'all. I hear you. Yeah. And it had gotten so bad, and I didn't even know this until I had gotten out, that my father told me this. He told me once I had gotten out, he said, you had gotten to the point where your mother came in our bedroom and said, either he goes or I go. But both of us can't stay here. It had gotten that bad that I was getting ready to be at the point where I wasn't even welcome in my own home anymore. And so this behavior kept going, And God gave me so many chances. So many chances. So there's a place that God wants us to be in and doesn't want us to go. But if you force his hand, he's going to let you go there. He's going to let you go there. He's trying to save you from getting your head knocked loose. But if you're hell-bent and determined that you're going to keep running down that way, sooner or later, he's going to stop holding your shirt and just let you go and let you run down that way and get your head knocked off. And he was trying to save me, but I wouldn't listen. I just kept going, kept striving, kept running towards straight down the hill. I was on a fast track, fast train, headed straight to hell and didn't care. And he was trying to save me, and I couldn't see it. And so I'm at home, continuing doing these crazy things. And I run out of money, and run out of liquor, and run out of weed, and run out of gas, and run out of everything. And I'm sitting in my room like, how can I get some money? And I'll never forget, the thought popped in my head just as clear as day. You can always get it done. And it stunned me for a second, see, because, in my mind, I said, this is a whole new caliber of crime we're talking about. I shoplifted, I done theft before, but now we're talking weapons. Now we're getting into armed stuff. That's a whole new caliber of crime with a whole new caliber of years attached to it. And so I blocked it out of my mind. But But the thought started to look just a little more appealing the more I thought about it. Real interesting. One of the greatest tools that the enemy will use, especially against our young people, is one word: compromise. Compromise. Once you begin to compromise something that you know is right and wrong, and you start compromising your value system, it makes it just that much easier to do it again. Because you'll sit there and justify it and tell yourself, well, that wasn't that bad, or, well, that wasn't that big a deal. Then you'll go to the next thing, well, that wasn't that bad. And then you'll go to the next thing, well, that wasn't that bad. And then you'll try the next thing. And the devil I think he's a master chess player, I really do. Because the strategy that he uses, certain things he knows he can't tempt you with at a certain period in time because your mind is not conditioned to be open to such ideas. But he knows if I can get you in a certain position to where your mind is open to this realm of thinking, then I might just be able to push you just enough to get you to go left. So had he proposed this idea of, go get a gun right when I came out of Pine Forge, I would have been like, yeah, okay, whatever. And going about my day, wouldn't have thought twice of it. But because I had compromised so much already on what I knew to be right and wrong, the thought started to seem a little appealing. And as I sat there, the thought got a little more appealing, and a little more appealing, until I told myself, well, I'm going to do it just this one time. And this may make you laugh, but this will tell you how green I was, considering I had never been in trouble with the law before, never really had done anything, like this before. Didn't know too much about, what the law entails as far as, what they can get you for, what they can't get you for. My little sheltered behind was assuming, well, you know what, if I don't have a real gun, they can't necessarily charge me with a gun charge. In case anybody else was thinking that, I don't know if you were, that's completely 100% false. First of all, you don't even really have to have a gun. If the person who you are robbing believes you to have a weapon, you will get charged with armed robbery. You can have your finger underneath your shirt like this. And the man at that counter tell the officer, I thought he had a gun, he had something under his shirt pointing out. I think he had a gun. You are getting charged with armed robbery. Simple as that. So I tell myself, well, because I don't have a real one, therefore they can't give me a gun charge. So I go and get myself this pretty real looking, I gotta admit, it was pretty real looking BB gun. Took this into a store, robbed the store, got the money, ran out the store, and took off. After counting what I had acquired, I realized I had just made my paycheck in the last 30 seconds. So guess what bright idea is in my head? Man, look, I'm out here pulling 10-hour shifts a day to make what I just made in 30 seconds. I'm not going to work. I got a new job now. I quit my job, and robbery became my full-time job. Understand, when I woke up in the morning, instead of going to work, I woke up in the morning and said, who's gonna get got today? Who's gonna get got today? That was my job. And just to show you how things escalate, see, people will always ask me when I tell this story, they always ask, well, how did you get from point A to point B? I said, it's a process. You have to understand, it's an escalation. The devil don't jump you from point A to point B to point B to point C. It doesn't happen. It's a slow progress. He eases you into certain things. Eases you into certain things. And before you know it, You're doing some wild, crazy, and just downright stupid stuff. I once heard a preacher put it like this. He said, sin will always take you farther than you intended to go and keep you longer than you intended to stay. Sin will always take you farther than you intended to go and keep you longer than you intended to stay. And so that just one time turned into just one more, and one more, and one more, and one more. This was my everyday job. Until one day I said, you know what? Some of these store owners have licenses to carry. So if one of them, was quicker on the draw than me and happens to get to their weapon before I get to this thing, first of all, this little BB gun ain't about to cut it. So you see the escalation now. Because in my mind, the BB gun ain't gonna cut it now. So guess what I gotta do? Now we gotta get a real one. Ended up getting a Glock 9mm, fully loaded clip. Glock 9mm, fully loaded clip. I think it was about 15, 16 bullets in that thing. By the way, anybody that is contemplating that they want to go get a firearm, you know the law is you can get 5 for the gun in a year for every bullet in it, right? So let's see, 5 for the gun, 17 rounds in the clip. You're looking at about, 22 years for a pistol, if they want to. Just saying. In case anybody was thinking about it. So I justify it to myself and say, well, I don't want it to accidentally go off on somebody, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the gun, I pop the clip out, kept the clip underneath my seat in my car. That way, it won't go off, I'm good, blah, blah, blah. The escalation. Did a couple more robberies. Then I started to think to myself, well, you know what, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and I don't have it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the clip, put the clip in, but I'm just not going to cock it. So that way, yeah, we're good. But I have the clip in case I need it. I just won't cock it. Cool. This is how I'm rationalizing as I'm going through. You see how it's getting worse and worse. Little bit by little bit. Little bit by little bit. Until one day I went in to rob a store, and the manager said something I didn't necessarily like. And without even thinking about it, I said, yo, what you say? Shh. So you see the progression. No clip, got clip, not gonna cock it, now it's cocked. What's the next step? And I'm gonna tell you this, and this is the honest to God truth. Carry that thing long enough, you gonna fire it. Simple as that. Carry it long enough, you gonna fire it. By God's grace, I never got to the point of firing. God had to stop me before I fired it, because I guarantee you I surely would have. I had gotten it in my head that if the time comes when one of these managers draws on me, and it's me and him, well, one of us is going to look good in the box, and it ain't going to be me, partner. And that was, I had it in my mind already. My mind was already conditioned that if I was put in that predicament, it was kill or be killed, and I was going to be the one doing the killing. So it wouldn't have been too far off for me to pull that trigger. All I lacked was the opportunity. And God knew this. And so he said, I got to do something before he gets the opportunity to pull this trigger. And I remember he kept trying to show me grace and mercy. after getting kicked out of Oakwood, WAU accepted me back. Not only that, but gave me back my scholarship. Said, yeah, your scholarship is still good, bro, for the next couple of years. Here. Grace and mercy. Do you think I took advantage of it? No. Still skipping class. Still doing what I wanted to do. Mind you, this is the most foolish thing. I was in religion class. And called my man and said, listen, bro, I'm about to go pull a move. You trying to ride? I'm in religion class, planning to go pull a ride. So I left class, picked him up, and he said, yeah, man, I know about this spot. Let's go around the way. So we went around the way. Let's just tell you how bold we got and how stupid we had got to think that, hey, look, we good. Nobody's ever gonna bust us. The place we went to go rob was down the street from the police station. We just got bold with it and said, yo, yeah, you're gonna go in and embrace the store that's down the street from the police station. We went in, robbed the store, ran out. As a matter of fact, I actually wasn't even going to rob the store, to be honest. There was too many people in there. So I was walking out, and as I looked over, the managers happened to be counting the register because they were about to make a deposit in the bank. And so that was my justification. I was just like, hey, bro, you kind of did this one to yourself. Hey, listen, I need all of it. He put it in the bag. We ran out. Stupidity number 4. I was using my car. Guess what's attached to my car? My license plates. Guess what's attached to your license plate? Your address. The car wasn't in my name, so they didn't get my name. It was in my father's name. But they still get the address. So later on that day, we thinking we got away scot-clean. We're out, getting high, doing what we were doing. I went to go put some new parts on the car and stuff. See, I thought I was living it up. Coming home every day with wads of money. And see, my parents, never imagined in a million years that this is what I would be doing. They knew I had strayed, but they just didn't think it had gone this far. No parent wants to believe their child is a klepto. I seriously wasn't. And I'm coming home, and I thought I was balling out. Thought I had it. I'm coming home, wads of money, new parts on the car, new sound system, DVD screens in the car, new clothes, new shoes, $200 shoes, whatever. Buying whatever I wanted to buy. And then thought I was balling so much, I went in my parents' room and was like, hey, Ma, here. Threw her a stack. There you go. That's for you. Her being who she is, she threw it right back. And said, I don't want no dirty money. She said, so if that's dirty, I don't want no part of it. I'm coming home buying big screen TVs, putting it up in my room. And my excuse for it is, well, this was what I had from when I was working, and I had saved it up. I was just, I'm coming up with every excuse in the world why I had this money. I caught a good sale, coming home, big screen TVs, new parts on the car, tinted windows out. I'm thinking I'm doing it, man. Thinking I'm living it up. Even started selling drugs for a while. Wasn't really good at it because I kept using my own supply. So, that day after we did that robbery, after leaving class, my father called me. He said, hey man, when you get home, I want to talk to you about something. Now for me, I really hate when people say that, just tell me what you're going to tell me. I hate when people be like, oh, let's talk later. Tell me what you're going to tell me. He was like, no, man, we'll talk when you get home. All right, I'll talk to you when you get home. I hate when people do that. It's just like a little pet peeve. Just tell me what you're going to tell me. Don't tell me later. So, this is going to sound real stupid, but I was in school not only on an academic scholarship, but I had a music scholarship as well. So I was singing in the choir. So I had to be back that night for choir rehearsal. So after we finished doing our robbery, getting high the whole day, I had to be back on campus for choir rehearsal. So I go back to campus that night for choir rehearsal. And a friend of mine comes up to me after choir rehearsal and says, "Oh, gee, you know the people was there looking for you." Like, what people? He said, "Man, the police were here looking for you." Looking for me for what? They were asking, what classes do you take? What color is your car? Well, where were you? All this other type stuff. Oh, now I'm sweating. Oh, Lord. So I called my father. And he said, "Listen, man, we'll just talk later." I said, "Pops, you don't even got to say nothing." I said, "They came to the house, didn't they?" He was like, "Yeah, man." He said, "Bro, what are you out there doing?" I said, "I'll talk to you later." So I go home, and of course now, I got to come clean about where I've been getting money for the past 3-4 months or whatever I'm doing. I got to tell them the whole thing, And at first I lied about that. I said, "Look, I was just looking out for somebody." Then when the police kept coming around, listen, okay, now I gotta really tell the whole thing. All right, look, I've been out here sticking up, and that's what it is. And of course, my parents they were crushed, but they were angry with good reason. And my mother told me, she said, "You know what? The same thing my grandfather told my father." She said, "If you go to," she said, "when you go out, be smart. And if you go to jail, be prepared to stay." She said, "His mama not going to bail you out and spend no money if you did wrong." But how many of you know, and this isn't a slight to my mother, the love of a mother. The love of a mother. This is not a slight to say that she wasn't a woman of her word. No. It was the love of a mother, who even through his stupidity did not want to watch her son get his head cracked by the court system. So her and my father went and got me a lawyer. Screamed at me the whole way to the lawyer's office. "No, I told you, you're ungrateful behind. I wasn't getting you no lawyer. I told you I wasn't going to spend money on this mess." She was like, "But I just can't imagine that I could have done something to get you some less time, and I didn't do it." My lawyer put it to his plain. Oh, he's going to do some time. Oh, he's going to do some time. First, actually at this time, I had stopped driving my car because then I figured my plates are hot, this, that, and the third. So I stopped driving my car, and I started driving my parents' other vehicle to get back and forth from where I was going. The police actually laid off me for about 2, maybe 3 months. And so I'm thinking, everything's good. Everything's clear. And, I souped up my car to the point where, it had some speed to it. So I really missed my car. So I was going to go get my car. And my mother begged me, "Please do not go get that car. Please do not drive that car." But again, me being stubborn, man, I'm going with my car. And I'll never forget it. She prayed with me that morning. So let me pray with you before you leave. Not knowing that was the last time she was going to touch me for 5 years. She prayed with me as I left the house that morning, and I went to go get my car. I was on the phone with my girlfriend at the time, and I was down the street from Washington Adventist University, where Tacoma Academy is. I was right in front of Tacoma Academy, literally a mile away from campus. And I was on the phone with my girlfriend, and I saw the lights come on behind me. And when I saw the lights come on, it was a 2-lane street. So, it's one going and then, one oncoming. So everybody, me along with everyone in front of me, moved over, because a lot of times cops will do that and they'll just go around everybody. So we all pulled over. But when I pulled over, he got right behind me. I told my girl, I said, listen, the cops behind me. I said, I'll see you when I get to class. Not knowing I'd never make it. He pulled behind me. Another one pulled beside me. Another one got in front of me and blocked me in the front. Every last one of those officers came out those cars with M16 rifles. Not the regular pistols, no, they had assault rifles. And every last one of them pointed right at my head. And was screaming, get out the car! Get out the car! So in my attempt to get out the car, I had my seatbelt on. So in order to take my seatbelt off, I gotta reach back to undo the seatbelt. Now every last person in here knows that would have been all she wrote. And nobody would have asked a single question. Because I know they had me listed as armed and dangerous because I was doing armed robbery. So that knew they had me listed as armed and dangerous. And all they would have had to write in the report is we saw him reach back. And that would have been all the justification they needed to open fire. And I wouldn't even be standing. I reached for the seatbelt and I heard them scream, he's reaching back, he's reaching back. So I quickly threw my hands out the window. And I said, bro, I got a seatbelt on, what you want me to do? And they came closer and they said, all right, reach for it slowly. So I reached for it slowly, undid my seatbelt, got out the car. As soon as I got out, turn your back towards us. Had my hands up. Hands on your head. Now back up towards the sound of my voice. Get on your knees. Lay flat on your stomach. Put your hands behind your back. And as my friends from Washington Adventist University are driving by, this is the position they saw me in. Pastor Graham was at Tacoma Academy at the time and tried to run over to me and the cops stopped him. And he said, man, look, no, he said, I'm his pastor, man. He said, oh, man, like, we don't care. Okay, who you are? You're not coming over here. He got on the phone instantly, called my father and said, you need to get down here right now. They got your boy. A friend of my mother's who was down there drove by, saw me, called my mother quickly and said, you need to get down here. They got your son. By the time my parents got down there, my car was being loaded up onto the tow truck, and they had already taken me over. They didn't know where I was. They didn't know what was going on, where they had taken me, anything. Real funny, you know, how you call on God when you get your hand up. I'm sitting in the holding cell. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't think of any hip-hop songs at the time, so the only thing I could really think of was gospel music. So I'm in the holding cell singing gospel music. The officer walks by, looks in the window, opens the door, and says, bruh, you in here singing gospel songs? I was like, yeah. He was like, you all right? Yeah, I'm all right. You sure? Like, yeah, I'm good. All right, bro, you know, let me know if you need something. Found out 3 different counties in Maryland wanted me. Again, thinking I was being smart, I hopped areas a lot when I did these robberies. Trying to be smart, thinking, you know, if I keep committing robberies in the same area, that's going to increase police, you know, presence in that area because they know there's a string of robberies happening in this area. not realizing that when I'm hopping from place to place, I'm crossing county lines doing it. Every county has their own judicial system, has their own court system, the whole nine. So you get charges in separate counties. And every single county wanted a slice of the pie. Sometimes, they can work out deals where one county will drop the charges, and they'll let one county, they were like, well, y'all got them already. We'll drop the charges, y'all just, y'all deal with them over there. Not with me. All three of the counties wanted their slice, wanted their pound of flesh. I had Prince George's County, Anne Arundel County, and Montgomery County. See, let me explain something about Montgomery County that y'all don't know about, if you don't know about it. Montgomery County is in the top 4 richest counties in the United States. Montgomery County, Maryland is in the top 4 richest counties. And let me tell you, predominantly don't look like me. You understand what I'm saying? So here we have one of the top 4 richest counties in the United States with predominantly not looking like me people. And here comes this little black boy down to our county thinking he gonna rob something? Oh. See, now we gotta make an example out of it. You gonna come down here and think you gonna take something, are you? Well, we gonna teach you about that. I went to the first county, went to court. But before I even went to court, I remember I thought my parents were going to get me out on bail. See, I know she said poor thing. My little spoiled behind thinking that mama and daddy were going to come bail me out. So I'm in there, still got that bass in my voice, still smelling myself. I didn't even know the other 2 counties had wanted me first. I only knew I had the 1 county. So I'm playing it off like, I'm on the phone, called my parents, still sounding cocky as I don't know what. Like, listen, when y'all gonna come get me? Like, this is like really depressing, like for real. Like, can we, when can we make this happen? Like, yeah. Still got that cocky sound in my voice, that bass in my voice. They were like, we're working on it, man. We will get you out as soon as possible. All right. So I'm in there, laid back. Like, okay, I deal with this for a night or 2. That is what it is. Call again the next day, like, when y'all going, when y'all going to pay this bill so I can get up out of here? And then what they said next changed my whole line of thinking. They said, we're not paying the bill. Let me tell you something, that bass will drop out your voice real quick. That grown man you thought you had in your voice real quick, trust and believe, that joint drop. All that bass gonna come straight out your voice. All of it dropped out my voice. Like, what you mean? I'm not free to come get me, man. Y'all not free to leave me in here, like seriously. Like, well, hold up, what y'all mean y'all not coming to get me? All that bass dropped clean out my voice. You'd be surprised, and I ain't gonna say it how I wanna say it, but situations like that will bring that other side about you. They'll bring that other side out you real quick. They said, well, your lawyer just told us that 2 other counties want you, so even if we paid your bail, they gonna come get you as soon as we bail you out. So there's no point in us paying the bail, so you just know how to sit tight, bro. And I remember the first time my mother came to see me. My mother and father came to see me in jail. I'm in my jumpsuit. And we both came into the visiting booth, and there's glass panel, phones right there. And my mother put her hand up against the glass. I put my hand up against the glass. But I couldn't touch her, and she couldn't touch her. And she picked up the phone, and I picked up the phone. And with tears in her eyes, she looked at me and she said, baby, it's just you and Jesus now. Because mama can't help you no more. She said, Mama, let's try. But Mama can't be in there with you now. It's just you and Jesus now. I can't help you anymore. And she pronounced this over my life and said, how long you're in there is determined by how long it will take you to get converted. She said, so how long do you want to be there? And I remember as she and my father prayed with me, I'm fighting back the tears. I'm fighting back the tears. Jail ain't necessarily a place you want people to see you cry. So I'm fighting the tears. I'm gritting my teeth, trying to hold them back. Trying to hold them back. And I watched them walk out and realized for the first time that I could not go with them. They had to leave, and I had to stay. And I always considered myself a real slick-talking individual, so always thought I was good at talking my way out of trouble. And when they shut that cell door, I realized there's no amount of slick-talking, no amount of crying, no amount of weeping, wailing, gnashing of teeth that's going to get you out of this one. You have now gotten yourself in a situation that Mama and Daddy can't help you. You are on your own, partner. You are alone. And you have to deal with it. You know, I found some quick jailhouse religion. You know, praying every day, doing all that. Thinking that God's forgiveness meant that my consequences were going to be alleviated. And sometimes we as Christians get that twisted. Forgiveness has nothing to do with consequence. When you pray and ask God for forgiveness, yes, He forgives you on the spiritual side. See, but there's a physical side of stuff that you got to deal with. And you're going to have to eat that. He forgave you spiritually, so eternally, yes, that's wiped away on your slate in heaven. But you still got man's law to deal with, bro. You still got the physical ramifications of what you have done that you got to deal with. So just because God forgave you or something doesn't mean the consequence gets wiped out. You still got to deal with the consequence. But one thing I love about God, in His grace and mercy, the consequence is never as bad as it would have been. Or you still got to deal with some consequence, but it's never as bad as it would have been. Read the story of David and Bathsheba, how he stole a man's wife and killed him to cover it up because he got her pregnant. By all rules and regulations of the law, David should have died for that. He should have been killed. And God would have been within His right to take David's life for the crime that he did. But the prophet Nathan looked at David and said, you shall not die, but the child born unto you and Bathsheba will die. So he still dealt with his consequence, but it just was not as bad as it should have been. The same goes for us. The same way for me. And so I went to court for the first county, for PG County. And the judge sat there and asked my family if anyone wanted to say anything. And so my mother, my father, and a couple of people got up and spoke on my behalf. But I will never forget my mother's words to the judge. And they often ring in my ear. In tears, she looked up at the judge and said, Your Honor, I don't know what I did wrong. She said, I tried. We put him in Christian schools. We tried to keep him out in the streets. She said, Your Honor, I tried. I just don't know what I did wrong. She was like, and just to think that a child of mine would be in this situation, she said, it's almost more than I can deal with. It's almost more than I can deal with. And then my father, what he said, see, it helps me to really understand the plan of salvation. Because he and my grandfather both said to the judge, if we could take his place, we would do it. And as I think about that, now I'm starting to understand how Jesus felt. If I could take his place. And I got sentenced in that county, and they sentenced me to 15, all suspended to 3. Pled guilty in all 3 counties. The evidence that they had against me in some of the counties actually wasn't that much. But because I had some so-called friends, let's touch on that for a little while. See, because some of y'all got some so-called friends. You know what we call them. That's my right-hand man, my ride or die, my homeboy, my homegirl. They gonna ride for me. They gonna be loyal for me. They gonna stick with me, man. They ain't never gonna dime me out. Yo, yeah, we loyal to the end. See how loyal they are when that officer gets in their face and tells them, hey, listen, you looking at 20 years, but I'm gonna let you walk out this door. Just give me your man. Find out how loyal they are then. Find out who's your ride or die man then. Who's your right-hand man then? When they put you in that room and tell your man who's supposed to be on your right hand, supposed to be loyal, we're going to let you walk or give you a lighter sentence. We need you to give us the info on your man. Them boys will sit in there and sing like a canary. And tell the peoples everything they want to know. And throw you slam under the bus if it gets them off. But yet you out here risking your life. You out here risking your freedom for some people who gonna throw you slam under the bus the minute they get a chance. But you risking your freedom for them? You putting yourself on the line for them? For your so-called partners? Especially if we say something to my dudes. Hey, bro, don't have no girl. Don't have no girl. Oh, let's just keep it real. Because as soon as your homeboy finished diming you out, guess whose door he knocking on? Hey, listen, sweetheart, I just wanted to let you know, your man gonna be down for about 10 years, right? Look, if you ever need anything, you got my number. You can always call me, you know what I'm saying? If you need a shoulder to cry on, I got you. You feel me? We can just be friends, you know. First door he going to the minute you go down. But that's your man. That's your right-hand man. That's your ride or die. And won't think twice or go home and sleep like a baby after he done sold you up the river. But yet you gonna put yourself on the line for them. And they don't care nothing about you. Some of y'all need to do a friend check. Seriously. Some of y'all need to do a friend check for real. That goes for adults too. Some of y'all for real need to do a friend check. Because some of them so-called friends that y'all got right now are probably out talking about you. Probably out going behind your back doing every other thing. And the minute you get in trouble, gonna be on the other side of it like, man, yeah, I tried to tell them not to do it, man. And y'all out there together. They gonna sell you straight out. But that's your ride or die, your homeboy. And I ain't just saying that because I don't know. My homegirl, or the girl, or one of the girls I was with at the time, who was the Bonnie to my Clyde, because when I would pull a move, I'd come back in the car with the money and throw it in her lap and be like, count that. Told them peoples, they ain't even barely have to apply no pressure. She told them peoples everything they wanted to know and stuff they ain't even asked for. No, seriously, because I have the discovery package at home that they have the whole thing written out so I could read what she said. She answered questions they didn't even ask. Told them things they didn't even ask. My man, who I thought was my man, got on the stand and sold me straight under the bus. Almost like both of them pretty much told the judge like I pretty much forced them into it. Like the girl even told the judge like I told him to take me home and he told me to shut the you-know-what up. Never had that conversation. I was like, when did that take place? Yeah, both of them got on the stand and sold me up the river. She got completely off. My man got 6 months. I went to that county and got 18 years. See, I got 15 off suspended with 3 in PG, got straight 5 in Anne Arundel, and got 18 off suspended with 12 in Montgomery. Off of a word. For my so-called homeboy. Some of y'all need to do a friend check. And I know, see, because I know how we think. I know how we think. Some of y'all are still sitting here thinking hard-headed, like, no, my homeboy, my homegirl ain't never gonna do that. That's all easy to say right now. Till you sitting in that room by yourself and then people throw 20 years at you. And then people tell you you about to go to prison for 20 years lest you give me info on your man. Some of y'all need to do a friend check. And so I went up to prison. There is a difference. Jail and prison are 2 different things. That little 2-month stint that you did was not prison, that was jail. Ended up doing 5.5 years in prison. And I hated every day of it. I hated it. I cringe at the sight of prisons. Which reminds me, please pray for me, because tomorrow I'm supposed to be speaking at the Newport News Juvenile Detention Center. And it's making me cringe even having to walk back in a jail and have them shut those doors behind me again. I hate it every single day. See all that cutesy stuff that you take for granted? It's all dead you get locked up. Y'all enjoy going downstairs, opening your refrigerator, getting little snacks out whenever you want? That's all dead. You enjoy your nice little cozy bed? Dead. Stuff you take for granted. You enjoy going in the bathroom and closing the door and having your privacy? Dead. Because you sitting in a small little 6x9 with another grown man in there. And there is no such thing as, hey, CO, can you let me out while my cell buddy uses the bathroom? Nah, bro. You gonna sit there and inhale all that glory and enjoy all of that. You gotta deal with that. Every bit of control that you thought you had in this life is completely stripped. You are no longer a person. You become property. Oh, and I have an officer tell me that. You are now the property of the state of Maryland. Property. Resorting back to slavery days, you are now property of the state of Maryland. No longer identified by your name, but identified by inmate number 431531. And yes, some of y'all signing up for that. funny because you're not saying it with your mouth. Nobody's really going to say it with their mouth, well, I want to go to jail, I want to go to prison, but your actions are saying something different. With your actions, you are saying, I would love to take up residence in this 5-star resort that you have here. So for any of you that are thinking about taking up residence in that 5-star resort called prison, we just tell you what you got to look forward to. All those cute little outfits you got on, ain't wearing none of that. Game colors. Not wearing none of that. You wear a shirt that has a stamp across the back of it that says DOC, Department of Corrections. You know, back in the day when the master used to put his label on you? Yeah, they got their label on you. Department of Corrections, or Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services. And you wear that every day. Matter of fact, they don't even let you out the cell if you don't have it on. You go in when you are told to go in. You come out when you are told to come out. You strip when them people tell you to strip. The word no does not exist with officers. You go to the bathroom when they tell you to go to the bathroom. You eat when they tell you to eat. They say jump, you say how high. People call you out your name, say stuff about your mother. Oh, but the minute you say a word back, you go into solitary, you go into the hole. I've seen guys sit in the hole for 3, 6, up to a year. Solitary is you sit in a cell by yourself with nothing. You don't have any reading material. You don't have anything. You sit in that cell by yourself, twiddling your fingers. Twiddling your fingers. Until they feel like letting you out. They let you out at night, you probably grab a shower, and you go right back in. All your meals are brought to the door, and you don't come out. And you'll sit in there for 3, 6 months, even a year. With nothing. But you in the 4 walls. That's what you get for retaliating or telling them no when they give you a direct order. Call it insubordination. There's a ticket that they can give you in there called reckless eyeballing. Because they didn't like the way you looked at them. One of the female officers, if you just so happen to glance at her, she doesn't like the way you looked at her. Give you a ticket, send you to the hole for reckless eyeballing. She says, well, I felt threatened by his look. You can go to the hole for reckless eyeballing. They don't like something you said, they go to the hole. Or they just do little things to get up underneath the skin. For instance, in one of my cells that I was in, me and my cell buddy, our window was broken. And it was the dead middle of winter. They had the little baseboard heaters, but our heater was broken too. It had to have been every bit of 30 degrees, 20 degrees outside. Freezing in the cell. And so we took what we could, cardboard, blankets, whatnot, and taped it up on the window to try to keep the cold out. Because we were in there freezing. We got in a verbal argument with one of the officers. First thing he did, hit the door, cuffed both of us, put us in the hallway, went straight to our window, tore all the stuff down, took it out the cell, uncuffed us, and put us back in and said, deal with it. Froze in that cell. Your family gets to see you when they say your family gets to see you, if they feel like letting your family see you. Your family has to dress how they say they have to dress to come and see you. And if they are out of the quote-unquote dress code, they will tell your family they can't see you. The woman and the man that bore you into this world, they tell them, yeah, you can't see your child. And then every time you are finished with a visit, there's no pain like the pain when you watch your family walk out that door and you realize you can't go work. Every time my family would come see me, I would get depressed afterwards. Because I wanted to go with them so bad. Just take me with you. Then after, you might even have a good visit, laugh, and it'd be great, but after the visit, you know what comes after the visit, right? Strip search. Yeah. When that officer take you in the back room and stands right there and tells you to hand him one piece of clothing at a time till you in your birthday suit, and makes you lift, flip, and show every bit of everything you got. Degrading, humiliating, and they stand right there while you do it. Then they look you dead in your face and tell you, now turn around, bend over at the waist, spread your cheeks and cough. Degrading and humiliating. Now I don't know who's aching to go and sign up for that, but somebody in there aching to go join up and stay at that 5-star resort. And somebody in here is going to end up there if you don't change what you're doing. And it don't take much. I had a friend that got out a few months before me, and he looked at me and he said, G, he said, they make it easy to come to prison, hard to get out. They make it easy to come to prison and hard to get out. I got brothers that still call me to this day, fighting to get out that prison. My cell buddy still calls me to this day. The brother has life, no parole. By man's standards, he is going to die in prison because of one mistake. And I broke out in tears when he told me what he got locked up for. He went in to rob the people, and the robbery went wrong, and he pulled the trigger. And I just thought about how there goes me. There goes me. I was right there. There goes me. Life, no parole. The man is going to be in prison for the rest of his life. I would wake up night